An arrest is made in the murder of a Laurel woman. Coming up, new details emerge about how she was killed and what led to that arrest.
For Montana Highway Patrol responding to crashes and pulling people over on the freeway in the snow, it can end in nightmare. You'll see why.
Good morning, Southwest Montana, 6:30 on this Friday. Chet Lehman with you here. Missy O'Malley is off today. Matt Elwell does have our weekend forecast in just a moment. Meantime, here is an update to those wildfires burning near Los Angeles. Flames have skipped two freeways, raced towards residential areas, leading to the rapid evacuation of more than 100,000 people. It's just one of several blazes fueled by gusty winds in that region. Saddle Ridge fire exploded to 1,600 acres early this morning, leading to mandatory evacuation in some areas. The Los Angeles Fire Department says the blaze is so dynamic, crews are just trying to protect homes. Firefighters are not yet able to even try to stop the flames. That fire jumped the 210 and 5 freeways, and some parts are closed in both directions as orange embers lit up the night sky. When it was first reported a few minutes before 11 p.m., the fire had gutted 60 acres before growing to 1,600 acres about an hour later. Also new this morning, the suspected killer of 57-year-old Lori Bray, found last week just east of Laurel, has appeared in Yellowstone County Justice Court. 22-year-old Diego Hernandez is charged with one count of felony deliberate homicide. Court documents show Bray's body was found naked, strangled, and her head beaten. Suspect's story changed with each encounter he had with law enforcement.
The level of violence and brutality suffered by Ms. Bray is astonishing. This was a violent crime, and her end was violent and awful. Additional charges may be forthcoming as additional evidence comes forward.
Yellowstone County Deputy Chief Attorney Ed Zink asked for a $500,000 bond. Judge Walker agreed. Court documents say 57-year-old Lori Bray died from strangulation and had blunt force injuries to her head. Bray gave 22-year-old Diego Hernandez a ride home early in the morning on October 1st after work at the Cedar Ridge Casino. Her car was left at Buffalo Trail Road and Laurel Airport Road near the cemeteries. Blood was found on a car seat and on her clothes that appeared to have forcibly been removed. Detectives later found her body about 3 miles from her car. Hernandez's face was covered in scratches, and he repeatedly changed his story when questioned. He told investigators he did not harm Bray, and he provided a DNA swab before he was arrested on Tuesday night. Besides the bond, the judge also ordered several other conditions, including GPS and alcohol monitoring. In other Treasure State headlines, a Browning woman convicted of involuntary manslaughter sentenced to a year and 1 day in prison. 21-year-old Shayanna England was found guilty of hitting and killing a pedestrian back in January. Officials say she was going 90 miles per hour on the Blackfeet Indian Reservation in a posted 35-mile-per-hour zone. She veered in oncoming traffic, turned back, striking the victim, L.J. Young Running Crane. England was also ordered to pay $3,500 in restitution. 6:33 now. Meteorologist Matt Elwell joins me at the desk. Boy, what an interesting couple of days we've had. The effects still lingering. It's still pretty chilly out there.
It is cold. In fact, some areas reporting zero. Yeah,
no
that's
temperature
the case.
at all.
Yeah, thanks for posting this. The thermometer showing that. Udo, thank you for showing that. I believe that's in Belgrade. Don't have confirmation on that yet,
right,
but thank you for sending that in. Be sure to, if you are posting a picture, let me know where you're talking about. Temperature this morning across the area very cold, and then because of that we have scattered snow and ice. Watch the bridge decks and the overpasses. That's where we're going to see the biggest problem. 6 below in West Yellowstone, 6 degrees in Butte, 14 degrees in Belgrade. It is cold outside for sure, and it's because we don't have any clouds in place, and that's allowing the temperatures to drop down. 14 degrees our temperature at Bozeman Yellowstone International Airport. No wind, so the wind chill isn't that bad. Butte, it is 6 degrees, a very light wind. Down to the south, about 6 miles an hour. It's 4 below when you factor in the wind. We'll talk more about what you can expect coming up in just a few minutes.
Except for the cold temperatures, those clear skies makes it look like you could reach out and grab that moon. Beautiful out there this morning. 6:34. Give us some pictures of that too if you'd like. 6:34 now. Our top local story. Love's new truck stop in Ramsey has been granted a liquor license, and that's not sitting too well with some of the neighbors. The Department of Revenue yesterday approved the transfer of the liquor license to Love's Travel Stop, which plans to open a truck stop and casino in Ramsey just west of Butte. Now, the ruling came after a hearing held in Butte last June, where several residents of Ramsey challenged the license by claiming that truck stop will create a safety issue for the community. Love's management has not said when it plans to open that truck stop in Ramsey. Well, an old scam is back again. Gallatin County Sheriff's Office says it's been getting a lot of reports lately of people getting robocalls saying their social security numbers have been suspended or compromised in some way. The caller then asks you to verify your social security number and give them other personal information. Officials remind everyone never, I'll say it again, never give out personal information to a robocaller. You are simply just to hang up on them. Good advice there. 6:35. Also new this morning, former U.S. Senator Max Baucus says Montanans can and should get involved in foreign policy decisions. He met with a diplomat, Michael Punkett, to discuss the tariffs on soybeans and wheat, as well as the political protests in Hong Kong. The discussion was moderated by news correspondent Gloria Riviera. Baucus tells MTN News that while these policies might seem distant, their impacts will impact people all over for many generations to come. He says that's why the Baucus Institute was built at the University of Montana to help educate people on what's going on in the global community.
So people in our part of the country want to go to for international relations or studying public policy, but with some special emphasis on China. And I say that because China is so going to determine our future. And we want to make sure it's determined in a way that makes sense to us.
Now, Baucus served on the Montana Senate from 1978 to 2014 and as the United States Ambassador to China until 2017. New this morning, a grizzly bear causing trouble for ranchers has been euthanized. Fish, Wildlife and Parks says the 612-pound bear had killed several cattle along the Rocky Mountain front east of Rogers Pass. Officials say the cold and early snowfall has led to a loss of some autumn food for bears, which they need before heading into their winter dens. Officials discussed their options, and it was agreed best to remove the bear from the population instead of trying to relocate it. International headlines this morning. The Nobel Peace Prize was given to Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed this morning, but the Nobel Committee says it has not been able to reach him to let him know about it. Nobel Committee says Ahmed was awarded the prize for, quote, his efforts to achieve peace and international cooperation, and in particular for his decisive initiative to resolve the border conflict with neighboring Eritrea. Now, the two Horn of Africa countries have been bitter rivals for decades and fought a war in the late 1990s in which around 80,000 people died. In headlines of local interest, President's new security advisor looking to cut back on foreign policy staff, putting it at about the size it was 10 years ago. Advisor Robert O'Brien says during the Obama administration, the number of staffers spiked to more than 100, but when George W. Bush was president, it was about half that size. And with two wars going on, O'Brien says the current staff is unnecessary, but did not say how he plans to make those cuts yet. Also, the past couple of days have been dangerous ones for Montana Highway Patrol troopers. Snow and ice on the roads means bad news for drivers, and then the men and women who are trying to lend a helping hand. PN's Cody Boyer went to Belgrade for more.
We got to push the limit as safely as possible.
Trooper D. Giovanna has been patrolling Gallatin County for about a year and a half. Seems like yesterday's and I-90 come with the snow and the territory.
We'll just say, hey, dispatch, where do you need us? And we're dispatched to pretty much the most serious one.
But the powder can turn a normal drive into a dangerous one quickly.
Just one person not paying attention, going over one bridge can shut down the interstate for hours.
As in this terrifying case back in 2015 near Missoula, a semi-driver lost control, smashing through another crash. Amazingly, even though the woman who was in a wrecked car was thrown into the median, everyone survived. But it is a worst-case scenario that D. Giovanna says could happen again in an instant.
Is anyone hurt out there? How quickly do we need to respond? Because it's dangerous us driving in those conditions as well.
Have you ever gotten your car with bad conditions and wondered if you're going to be able to come back? Is it ever something like that
You can't think that way.
While yesterday is melting behind us, he says he and his fellow troopers are ready for the next wave.
Crashes, they happen where the road is the worst. So when people see those flashing lights, they need to slow down, recognize that something's going on up there, and react appropriately.
In Bozeman, Cody Boyer, MTN News.
Now, Trooper Di Giovanna says if you see those flashing lights, get over as safely as possible. If you can't, the next plan should be to not panic, slow down, stick to your course, and keep aware of your surroundings at all times. Other Treasure State news this morning, the lights went out in Lake County Wednesday afternoon due to a surprise visit from a frog. Mission Valley Power reports on its Facebook page that a frog, that's right, a frog, blew the breaker at Northwestern Energy substation. The incident caused outages from Ronan to Pablo to Polson all across the southern end of Flathead Lake. Lake County Sheriff Don Bell tells MTN News the lights flickered at the courthouse, but a backup generator put it back online. Hospitals in the area were also on backup generators. Stoplights were out, as well as most businesses and homes across Lake County. Some businesses managed to stay open during the outage using old school methods. About 4 hours later, power was restored. However, we have no word on the condition of the frog. 6:41 now. We're going to take a quick break here on Montana This Morning.